Listen here. Everyone is obsessed with what the older generation of millionaires did to build wealth. They say to buy real estate when it was cheap, invest in blue chip stocks, start a traditional business. But here's the reality. If you're young, especially if you're from a disadvantaged background, that advice is completely useless. I want you to think about your situation right now. You're probably watching this video because you're stuck. Maybe you're working a 9 to 5 that barely covers your bills. Maybe you're in college racking up debt for a degree you're not even sure you'll be able to pay off. Or maybe you're just tired of watching other young people build wealth while you're following the safe path. The truth is, the traditional path has become the riskiest path in 2025. Job security is now just an illusion. That safe corporate job, it could be automated or outsourced tomorrow. That expensive degree, it might be obsolete before you're even finished paying for it. The real risk isn't in trying something different. It's in following outdated advice that no longer works. After studying and being a part of this new generation of young kids making money online, I've noticed something truly fascinating. The traits that make us and other emerging entrepreneurs successful have nothing to do with what the older generation preaches. In fact, most of these traits would even be considered negative in a traditional setting. Today, I'm going to break down the 5 key traits that separate these young high achievers from everyone else in 2025, and more importantly, why they matter now more than ever. And the first trait is what I like to call the advantaged disadvantage. This is what's fascinating about young millionaires. Most of them come from challenging backgrounds, but unlike what most people think, this isn't a disadvantage. It's actually a superpower. When you grow up with nothing, when you have no safety net, and your back is pinned against the wall, you're forced to develop something that many kids, quite frankly, never get the chance to develop: desperate creativity. When failure means going back to a life you desperately want to escape, your mind works in so many different ways due to the pressure bestowed upon you. When you got to get on the school bus knowing you're going back to a house full of stress and pain, like what I and many others had to do with similar backgrounds, you don't think about what if I fail. You think about how can I make this work no matter what, because you really have no choice. And this forces you to develop a level of resourcefulness that's impossible to develop when you have been fed with a silver spoon all your life. But listen, that's not a bad thing. I'm just here to point out the facts, and this doesn't mean that you can't be successful if you didn't come from a disadvantaged background. But it's not expected from those who started with nothing. And look, I completely understand and have sympathy for those who do come from a perfect family. But just because it looks perfect doesn't always mean it's perfect. Because everyone around you will tell you not to throw away what you were given, even if it's not what you want, especially your parents. And this was Alex Hormozi's exact situation. He had the white-collar job with the opportunity to finish his studies at an Ivy League school, but it wasn't what he wanted. It was what his father and his peers wanted. So he threw away everything to start a gym, and now look at where he's at. Far more successful than anyone he knew at the time, telling him to stay on the safe path. And what forced him to succeed was that he put himself in a disadvantaged position. Even though he came from a good family and background, it forced him to have to succeed, which he did. When you come from a disadvantaged background, or even put yourself in a disadvantaged position where the cards are stacked against you, you will simply develop the ability to learn to see opportunities where others see obstacles, develop an immunity to rejection and failure, and you will become an expert at maximizing limited resources. And a bonus one I'm throwing on top is you simply just end up not giving a shit. And so this genuinely isn't just theory anymore. If you actually look at the most successful young entrepreneurs in any field, most of them didn't start with advantages. They turned their disadvantages into fuel for success. So the second trait is what I like to call strategic laziness. Now, this might sound controversial, but hear me out. The most successful young millionaires I know are physically lazy. Not lazy in terms of work ethic, but lazy in the sense that they refuse to accept traditional hard labor as their path to success. I mean, this is the same case for me. And this physical laziness becomes a superpower because it forces you to think differently. Instead of accepting a 12-hour shift at minimum wage, you start asking yourself different questions like, how can I create systems that work for me? Or how can I leverage technology? Or how can I make money while I sleep? And this is what most people actually get wrong about strategic laziness. It's not about avoiding work. It's about avoiding inefficient work. The smart ones work actually incredibly hard, but they work on creating systems, not on repetitive tasks that could be automated or delegated. So I want you to think about it this way. Would you rather A, work a 12-hour day at a job trading time for money, or B, spend 12 hours building a system that generates you money while you sleep? Now, the sad truth is that the average person ends up choosing A A because it feels safer. And the 0.01% choose B every time because they understand the power of leverage, even if they don't know if they will succeed. So this leads me to the third trait, which is anti-traditional education. The 0.01% in 2025 are obsessive learners, but not in the way that schools currently teach. They understand that paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for outdated information is simply a bad deal. Instead, they become masters of self-directed learning because traditional education teaches you to wait for permission, learn at someone else's pace, study subjects you'll never use, follow a predetermined path, and on top of all that, seek validation through grades. And the 0.01% flip this entire model on its head. They simply understand that real education means learning based on immediate needs, implementing knowledge instantly, testing ideas in the real world, and building while learning. I want you to think about how backwards traditional education is in today's world. You spend 4 years learning theory, then graduate and realize that most of what you already learned is outdated. Meanwhile, the market has completely changed. New technologies have emerged, and the skills you actually needed weren't even taught in school. This is exactly why the new generation are taking a completely different approach to learning. They simply treat education like a just-in-time system rather than a just-in-case system. They don't waste time learning about things they might need someday. They learn exactly what they need when they need it and immediately put it into practice. The fourth trait is transactional value. To be a part of the 0.01%, you need to understand something crucial that your peers miss. Everything is transactional. Your time, your energy, your attention, everything has value that can be calculated. And you must constantly be running the equations in your head by asking yourself, what's the ROI on this activity? Is this the best use case of my time? And how can I multiply my effort? But this goes much deeper than just basic ROI habits. It's to understand complex value equations that most people never consider. To grasp the true cost of opportunities, not just in terms of money, but in time and energy, they recognize the compound effect of small decisions and the hidden value in relationships and networks. They understand the real price of saying yes to something which inherently means saying no to everything else. Most people think about a salary when taking a job. The new generation of entrepreneurs, however, think about the skills they'll acquire, the networks they'll build, the opportunities they'll access, and the systems they can learn, along with the knowledge they'll be able to leverage later. This mathematical thinking extends to everything they do. They're not just asking how much can I make, they're asking how can I multiply whatever I'm doing. So the fifth trait is future pattern recognition. This is perhaps the most powerful trait, especially in 2025. The new generation have an almost supernatural ability to spot trends and opportunities before they become obvious to everyone else. Here's what's actually fascinating about this trait. It's not about predicting the future. It's about understanding human nature and technological progression at a fundamental level. And so if you even want to join the 1%, you need to understand that most major trends follow predictable patterns. It's one of the most basic but necessary skills you have to master. Let me share with you a saying I heard once, and it goes as, fortune favors the prepared. And the only way you can be prepared is to be able to identify patterns and trends early on. A new piece of technology will emerge, the early adopters will experiment, there's always initial resistance from the mainstream like social media and AI, then followed by a gradual acceptance, rapid mass adoption, market saturation, and finally, new disruption begins. And the key here is to be able to recognize where in this cycle different trends are and position yourself accordingly. This is how the new gen of entrepreneurs are able to be in the right place at the right time. They're not lucky, they're observant. But it's not just about spotting trends in technology or markets. It's about understanding the deeper patterns in human behavior and desire. You have to understand that while technology changes rapidly, human nature remains the same. A good book I recommend to read is The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. People always want to feel important, to solve their problems easily, to gain status among their peers, to avoid pain or discomfort, and to belong to something. It's called tribalism. This understanding of human nature combined with the awareness of tech creates a powerful advantage. While others are chasing surface level trends, you need to be positioning yourself at the intersection of human desires and technological advancements. Think about how this actually plays out in the real world. When TikTok first emerged, most people saw it as just another social media platform. But my generation saw something completely different. They recognized a shift in attention spans, changes in content consumption, new opportunities for influence, emerging marketing channels, and fresh ways to build personal brands. This ability to see deeper patterns extends beyond just business opportunities. It affects every decision they make. While their friends are making decisions based on what's happening now, the 0.01% are making decisions based on what's likely to happen next. This transformation of problems into opportunities opportunities is crucial to understand. When most people face a problem, they see a roadblock. When the new generation of entrepreneurs face a problem, they see market opportunity. This isn't just positive thinking. It's a fundamental difference in how they process information and approach challenges. Let me explain how this works in the real world. When the pandemic hit, most people saw their world falling apart. Traditional businesses were closing, jobs were disappearing, and uncertainty was everywhere. But kids just like me saw something different. They saw millions of people suddenly needing new solutions. They saw traditional industries ready for disruption. They saw behavior patterns shifting in ways that created new opportunities. Just take a look at the boom of the e-commerce industry. It exploded almost overnight, and those who were prepared came out on top. This ability to see opportunity in chaos comes directly from the 5 traits working together. Your disadvantaged background teaches you to find solutions with limited resources. Your strategic laziness pushes you to create scalable solutions rather than temporary fixes. Your self-directed learning helps you quickly learn what you need to capitalize on the opportunity. Your ability to protect your energy helps you calculate which opportunities are worth pursuing. And above all else, your pattern recognition helps you understand which solutions will have a lasting impact. This new generation of entrepreneurs don't just react to changes, they anticipate them. This anticipation comes from understanding deep patterns in human behavior, and that technology is only going to keep getting better. They know that every major shift creates multiple waves of opportunity, and they position themselves accordingly. This brings us to something crucial that most people actually miss about success in 2025. The speed of change isn't just making traditional paths riskier, it's actually creating more opportunities for those who think differently. The faster things change, the more valuable these 5 traits become. The speed of change creates an interesting paradox. While most people feel overwhelmed and paralyzed by rapid change, you need to thrive on it and understand that chaos creates opportunity. And the faster things change, the more opportunities will emerge. Think about what's happening in the job market right now. Traditional careers are disappearing, being automated, or being outsourced. I literally have a friend who used to work at WeWork and quit to go all in on his AI agency and told his manager that you're all useless and can be replaced by AI. Most people see that as a threat. They're desperately trying to hold on to stability in a world where the stability no longer exists. You need to understand that every disrupted industry creates new opportunities for those who can provide new solutions. This is exactly where traditional success advice completely misses the mark. Most success advice out there is built around the idea of reducing uncertainty. Get good grades, ensure a good job, get a stable career, ensure a steady income, save money to ensure a comfortable retirement. But to be a part of this new generation of millionaires, you'll need to understand that pursuing certainty is actually the riskiest strategy of all. You don't just accept uncertainty, you actively have to seek it out. To understand that the biggest opportunities exist in spaces of maximum uncertainty. When everyone else is running away from disruption, you should be running towards it. This different approach to risk and uncertainty creates what I like to call the millionaire feedback loop. The faster you test ideas, the more data you gather, and the better you become at spotting patterns. And the better you become at spotting patterns, the more opportunities you can identify. And the more opportunities you can identify, the more tests you can run. And the cycle continues, and accelerating with each iteration. Look at your current situation. Where are you trading time for money? Where are you working hard instead of working smart? Where are you following traditional paths that no longer make sense in 2025? These are your opportunities for transformation. Let's talk about something that most people miss about high achievers. It's their relationship with time. Most people think about time linearly. They see time as a resource to be spent carefully. High achievers think about time exponentially. They see time as a resource to be leveraged and multiplied. This different relationship with time changes everything about how they operate. While others are trying to manage their time, the 1% are trying to multiply it. While others are trading time for money, they're creating systems that generate value independently of their time. This multiplication of time comes from understanding something crucial about wealth creation in 2025. In the digital age, value creation isn't linear. When you create something valuable, it can be replicated and distributed virtually at no cost. This means the potential return on your time investment is virtually unlimited. So think about how this changes the calculation of risk and opportunity. When the potential upside is exponential, but the downside is limited, the traditional rules of risk assessment no longer apply. This is why young millionaires are willing to test ideas that seem risky to others. They understand that in this digital world, the cost of failure failure is low, but the potential for success is enormous. This understanding of exponential returns leads us to something crucial about success: the concept of leverage points. Young millionaires are obsessed with finding leverage points in everything they do. A leverage point is simply anywhere you can put in minimal effort for maximum impact. In this digital age, these leverage points are almost everywhere, but most people seem to miss them because they're still thinking linearly. I want you to think about content creation. Most people see it as a way to express themselves or to build a following. Young millionaires and this new generation see it as leverage points. Every piece of content they create can reach millions, generate leads, and build authority and create opportunities, all while they sleep. This is why they're focused on creating systems rather than just working hard, just like what I'm doing. It's not about technology or digital assets. It's about understanding how value flows in the modern world. Young millionaires understand that attention is currency, influence is leverage, and speed is power. They use this understanding to position themselves at points where value flows intersect. All this understanding means nothing without action, but their execution looks differently than what most people think of as hard work. They execute strategically, focusing on leverage points and multiplication of opportunities rather than just linear output. So the truth is, becoming a part of this 0.01% isn't about being special or being gifted. It's actually about seeing the world differently and having the courage to act on that vision. It's about understanding that the rules have changed and being willing to play a different game than everyone else. For those of you who feel stuck in the traditional path, understand this: 2025 offers more opportunities for wealth creation than any other time in history. But these opportunities don't look what your parents or teachers told you to look for. They require a different mindset, different traits, and different actions. The question isn't whether these opportunities exist, they're everywhere. The question is whether you're willing to develop these traits necessary to seize them, whether you're willing to embrace uncertainty and turn it into opportunity. Remember, in 2025, you don't need decades to build wealth. You don't need rich parents or a trust fund. What you need is the right mindset, the right traits, and the willingness to act while others wait for certainty.